Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn and I'm glad you're here. And this video is about my joyful June reading plans, events, and what I'm reading now, what I plan to be reading. So I know every month, every day should be joyful, but sometimes our reading is not as joyful as it could be. But I decided after having a vacation in Canada in May, the last 2 weeks of May, that I was going to be easy on myself and read whatever I want. And then I thought, well, isn't that what we're supposed to do anyway? But there was an event that I wanted to take part in. So, my plans of just reading what because I had a big book haul, which I'll have down below in case you missed it, from my Canadian vacation. And there was so much deliciousness to choose from. And I wasn't, it kind of overwhelmed me a little bit. So I said to myself, what are you going to read this month? And I said, anything that brings me joy. And I'm here to show you what's bringing me joy and what isn't. Now, the first book I want to show you is 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. And as I said in my last video when I was talking about if we read too much, that we have limited time and we can't do everything. And that's what this book is about. But I have to say that it's not that much of a joyful book. If you read the blurb, it says, the average human lifespan is absurdly, insultingly brief. Assuming you live to be 80, you have just over 4,000 weeks. Now, if you're 40, that might, encourage you. If you're going to be 74, that's a little depressing. But I started reading it and realized that it's not really a time management book as much as it is drawing on the insights of both ancient and contemporary philosophers, psychologists, and spiritual teachers. Oliver Burkeman delivers an entertaining, humorous, practical, and ultimately profound guide to time and time management. So I'm not sure if I'm going to find this a joyful book, and it's a nonfiction book. So I would say if you're more into you're 40 or 50, you might want to read it more, because I don't really worry that much about time management. But I am reading a book that is giving me joy so far. Not saying that this one won't give me joy after I read it, but so far I keep on turning to a similar book that was gifted to me by one of my subscribers, called Happiness by Rabbi Zelig Plinski. And I have to tell you, this is it has 93 very short, easy to read chapters, and the joyous little book takes us on a successful pursuit of happiness. And just the first story, just the first sentence, it's really the second. So he's talking about one of his experiences. I was walking on a busy street and came upon a beggar. Everything about him projected the message, I am poor, have a heart and help me out. I gave him a coin and wished him well. With a happy look on his face, he blessed me. May you smile and laugh the entire year. I felt that I gained more from him than he gained from me. And, as he was writing the book, he says, that was a great opening for a book on happiness. I thought to myself, I felt so good about this blessing that I reflected, wouldn't it be wonderful if these good wishes were on everyone's lips? And I have to say that I had been doing this for a long time, wishing people joy and happiness, and it's come back to me tenfold. And I've been spending a lot of time on Booktube, reading watching people's videos, listening to them, and wishing them joy, not only on Booktube, but on other channels, but mostly on Booktube. And I write long messages or long comments, and I always wish people health, healing, and aloha. And it's come back to me 1,000-fold. So this book is very delightful and is giving me a lot of joy reading it in June. The next book is a buddy read that I'm reading with Sarah Wallace of Roadworthy and Lindy of Lindy's Magpie Reads, both of wonderful booktubers, wonderful friends, and I'll have them down below, their channels. And if you haven't met Sarah from Roadworthy, she needs more eyes on her channel, because her channel is really delightful, as is she. And I have to say, I'm the one who recommended her to make a booktube channel. And she's a wonderful booktuber, and I'm glad that she's on this platform with us. And we're reading Margaret Lawrence, The Diviners, which is the last part of the Manawaka series. And it's calling itself an epic novel. I'm finding it very educational, thanks to Lindy, because Sarah and I are not Canadians. So we don't know all of the stuff that Lindy knows, and is educating us about Canada in general, about Indigenous people of Canada, about the history of Canada, and even the geography. So it calls itself an epic novel. I call it more of, what I'm finding, it's more of a coming of age novel to an adult, maybe family saga, but it has so many wonderful characters. And like I always say, I don't like family sagas unless when I do, and I love this book. And so the main character is Mohr, and she's growing up in a small Canadian prairie town, and it's a toughening process, putting distance between herself and a world that wanted no part of her. We haven't finished it yet. We're about halfway through, maybe a little more, and I'm just delighting and finding joy in reading with two other booktubers, and it's just giving me such an insight into not only Canada but Indigenous people. And I'm going to come to that in a moment when I talk about another book. But first I want to talk about a book that's bringing me a lot of joy, and it's a translated mystery book that I talked about. It's called Point Zero, and it's by Seicho Matsumoto, and it's translated by Louise Kawai. I wonder if she's from Hawaii, but anyway, Seicho Matsumoto is a Japanese crime writer, very famous in Japan, and I'm loving this book so much. And I talked about it a little bit, that it's set in Tokyo in 1958, and we have Teiko, who's she's getting married to Kenichi Uhara. He's 10 years older than her, and she's been sort of turning down a lot of suitors until she met this man who's older than her. She doesn't really get to connect with him before their wedding too much, and right after the wedding he disappears, and so she travels to the coastal and snowbound city of Kanazawa, where Kenichi was last seen, to investigate his disappearance. And I just wanted to read you a little bit of why this book is not only delightful in a mystery way, but in the way that this writer is writing. So she's on a train going from Tokyo to Kanazawa to look for him with his boss, and she realized she'd been asleep after all. The bluish light of morning filled the carriage, and here and there through the open blinds she can see a mass of white hurtling by. She pulled the cord of the blind next to her, and the landscape was instantly revealed. It was snowing, and in the light of early morning the snow was softly accumulating. The lines of dark trees had a heavy sprinkling, and faint plumes of smoke curled from the snow-laden rooftops. Someone had lit a small bonfire, and its single bright glow was the only color in an otherwise somber landscape. Even the sky was the color of ash. This was the North Country, she thought. So it's not only a wonderful mystery, but it's a wonderful literary translated fiction. And if you can get it, I was told when I was in Canada that this is hard to get translated, with its beautiful, beautiful cover. So if you can find this, so far I am enjoying this book so much, and it's bringing me delight and joy. Now, there's an event going on. It's called caribAthon, and it's run by Karen from Run Right Reads, and I'll have her information down below. And it's reading, we're right in the middle of it, and even though it's a 2-week event, I'll try to have her, the introduction to the event down below beside her channel. And I decided there's no way I'm not going to participate in this event, especially since I found a wonderful author almost by accident. And her name is Nicholasa Mohr. And the book here, I wish you can see this book, because it was, she's a graphic designer. She's still alive. She's about 83 right now, and she's an artist. And one thing I read, so the book does have illustrations. I think it has illustrations. Or maybe the other book I'm reading by her, oh yes, it does have some illustrations. So here is one illustration that she designed. So what is Nilda about? And who is this author? I had to look it up. So Nicholasa Mohr, she was born in 1938, is one of the best known Nuyorican artists. If you don't know what Nuyorican is, well, I'm a Nuyorican. It's a person who was born in New York from Puerto Rican parents. And I have a Puerto Rican father, or I had a Puerto Rican father. So born in the United States. In 1973, she became the first Nuyorican woman in the 20th century to have her literary works published by a major commercial publishing house, and she has had the longest creative writing career of any Nuyorican female writer for these publishing houses. So the important part is she centers her works on the female experience as a child and adult in Puerto Rican communities in New York City, with much of writing containing semi-autobiographical content. In addition to her prominent novels and short stories, she has written screenplays. Throughout her studies, she was drawn to artwork because of its powerful message about social change. So she had a successful career in graphic design and the fine arts until she shifted to fiction writing. And she got her start in writing after a suggestion from her art agent. She published her first book, Nilda, in 1973, which traces the life of a teenage Puerto Rican girl who confronts prejudices during the World War II era in New York City. The work is semi-autobiographical, drawing inspiration from her childhood. And one of the prominent themes in the book is the assertion of place and identity for a woman in a colonized community. And she must deal with intersecting ethnic and gender prejudice and is constantly pushed toward assimilation. And this is something very interesting. In a 2016 interview with the New York Times, Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's much younger than I am, cited Nilda as the book that shaped him the most. And I think that it's a shame that I never heard of her, because my father was not brought up, but he came to New York during during the late 40s. And this is written around maybe 43, 44, and I know nothing about the New York experience for Latinos, for Nuyorican then. And when I started reading the book, which is delightful, by the way, I'm going to read you just July 1941. I'm going to read you the first page. And here's another one of her designs. And I have to say, it shows, it's really delightful, with people of all shapes and sizes, and what looks like water, because it's just beautiful. It says, summers in New York City's barrio were unbearable. Even when there was a cool spell, it seemed a long time before the dry, fresh air can find a way past the concrete and asphalt into the crowded buildings which had become blazing furnaces. As Nilda played outside, she could smell the heat mingled with the odors coming from the tenements and sidewalks. Tiny beads of moisture settled in her nostrils, making it hard to breathe. She was playing on the sidewalk where she had discovered a small patch of shadow. I'm not going to read more. I wanted to read more, but I'm really happy during caribAThon to find a book and bring it to you about someone. I had to find this in the library in a closed stack, and I feel that Nicholasa Mohr needs to be brought out into the light, because I know, even if this is a young adult book, I don't care what kind of book it is, I'm going to read it, because I think that the Nuyorican experience is part of caribAThon. And by the way, Karen is Jamaican born, from Run Right Reads, who's doing this readathon. She's Jamaican born and lives in New York City. So I'm sure that, and I was brought up in New York City. I was born in New York City. And I said my father came over in the late 40s. So I want to see if I can glean what my father's experience might have been, even though he was older than Nilda. But, and also I was really drawn to this book because of the name Nilda, which is a very common name when I was growing up in my Puerto Rican neighborhood. And when I'm looking at this, there's a lot, it seems like it's sort of graffiti, and there's names, and it's Lydia and Delia, Manuel, and then it says down Hitler. So it's like a graffiti. It's a beautiful cover, and I think this is going to be a beautiful book. So that's the joyful June that I'm having, and I hope you're having too. And I'm going to come back to tell you, I did finish one book, but I'm not hurrying my reading. I'm enjoying it and finding joy in all of the books that I'm reading, and trying not to rush and read too fast, because I think that when I do get to finish this book, if I do, I'm going to find that it's not everything you do, but picking out the things that are going to bring you joy. And he was talking about in the beginning of the book about even things that are wonderful things, like a bucket list, for example, and you have to cross things off your bucket list and go to every place that ever was, created. That can bring stress and unhappiness, as well as having to do things that you have to do to survive, like work, and like I always say, keeping my palace alive from turning to dust. So there's a lot of management that goes into keeping up a home, and it's not so joyful. But how can I make it joyful? That's the point, to what you're doing every day to make it joyful and not make it a chore, even if it's washing a dish or doing something that's not what people wouldn't call fun. And when I went into the ocean, it didn't cost me anything last week, and I had a lot of fun. So I plan to have a joyful June, July, and in August I make 4 years on Booktube, and I hope to have a little celebration on Booktube. So I hope you enjoyed my joyful June, whatever it was. And I hope you have a joyful June. And please like or comment, and if you want to, subscribe. That would make me very happy and give me even more joy. And it gives me joy just to be here on Booktube. And until my next video, I wish everybody a wonderful June. Bye-bye and aloha.